Are you just going to paraphrase?
I'm just going to paraphrase.
Okay.
So this is Crime Crazy. Welcome.
Okay.
Oh, you were supposed to, like, jump in there and say something.
I got nervous. Why do I get stage fright?
Welcome to Crime Crazy, our weekly true crime podcast with Aaron Plein.
And Jordan Middleton.
Where something about, we don't know what we're talking about, but we do it anyway.
Yep.
Because we really like crime.
Yep. We don't know anything about our legal system.
There you go. See, you know it better than
That's the only line I know.
That's what you know
so
about
you just read the entire paragraph up until that line, and I'll say the line,
jump in.
And then you finish it off.
I gotcha. No. So I'm excited to be recording, even though it's a day early.
Yes. Well, that's okay.
Schedules change.
Yep.
Gonna, check something off our list early this week.
Mm-hmm.
Also means I get an extra day to edit.
That's true. And then now, just in case they do go to the hospital to have the baby, I can have the whole week and not because I'm thinking it's going to be today or tomorrow.
Gotcha.
I'm really thinking.
Do you want to explain why you're going to the hospital to have a baby?
I said they are having a baby. I made sure. Not me. Believe me. The only baby I'm having is a food baby. But that's besides the point. So David's nodding in agreement. He
thinks you're having a food baby?
Maybe he has his own.
Oh yeah, he has his own food baby. I gotcha.
He's miming to us.
He doesn't want to be on the podcast. No. He just wants to be on the podcast.
Yep. Nope. So my brother and his girlfriend are pregnant. I'm saying they're both pregnant, but you know what I mean. And
well, I mean, it is a pre-existing condition.
True. So she was due last week, so it should be any
so
day.
But they shouldn't let women go past.
Yep.
I mean, it's fine because the baby can bake some more, but she must be
Well, no,
miserable.
I said she's going to come out like a burnt cookie.
No.
I was like, get her out. But she's dropping just in pictures a few days apart. You could tell.
Can tell, yeah.
So I was like, keep walking, squat that baby out. Push her out.
Squat that baby out.
And then I tell her, I'm like, okay, well, I'm free from this time to this time, so go ahead and go into labor.
Right.
Please just plan that around. So
I feel like you should be free all the time right now.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's why I just want to make sure our podcast was recorded. So I told my mom on the way over here, I said, well, I'm going to record. And I said, I feel like I'm going to get a call. And I'm going to be like, just 1 second. Let me just finish this up.
We just have the short story left to do, and then we can sign off.
And I told her, I was like, no matter what, I'm never dressed to go and be cute in pictures with the new baby, or because she was like, I really want to be showered and ready to go at all moments, just in case.
Your mom was not.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, Mom, if you could see me right now, I was like, I look like I was dressed in the dark.
No, because I heard that you're.
Oh my God, guys! On the way over here,
Jordan is hot.
Yeah, I'm the prettiest girl he's ever seen. So I was at Wawa, and I was like, I'll get a sandwich and a tea, and I'll, eat my dinner.
There's a theme.
What?
Wawa.
Yeah.
You had Wawa last time, too.
I always have Wawa.
Every single time.
I am addicted to Wawa.
Hey, Wawa.
Please sponsor us.
You know how long it took us to set up today because we don't have a proper podcasting room, and my couch still sucks.
And I was eating one of your delicious sandwiches and actually drinking Wawa brand tea. So I'm literally supporting you around the table.
And you're going to be a father because that's the food baby that she's having.
Congrats. It's twins. So, but seriously, so I'm talking to my mom, got my sandwich, got my tea, whatever. I'm getting in the car and I started backing up and this guy's waving at me. And I thought, okay, he's a good person. He's waving at me so I don't put it in drive and floor it and over him.
Right.
In Wawa, you have to get out of the parking lot as fast as you can.
Yeah, it's always packed. And
always.
They have weird
There's a meme
spots
that says that Wawa is the only place where they'll run you over in the parking lot but stand an extra minute to hold the door open for you.
Yeah.
Which is the truest thing I've ever seen.
It's true.
So I was like, oh, he's going to let me know so I don't run him over. That's nice of him. Thinking well, that's pretty nice of me. I should have just not ran him over in my head. So he's waving at me and I waved him across. And he comes close to my window and he starts telling me to put my window down. So I was like, oh my God, Mom, hold on. So I put my window down a few inches. I was like, okay, if he puts a gun in my window, I'll just floor it and I'll knock him off his feet.
He won't be expecting that.
And I was like, he can't reach me with a knife. I'm thinking all these things. And he's he's
gonna drop a grenade through the crack in your window and you're gonna floor it and it's not gonna matter.
Oh gosh. that has to do with my story today.
Oh my gosh.
But, so he was a little older. He had like a Newsies cap on. He's a little, I don't know a good way to say that.
Not your Prince Charming. He's goofy looking.
Oh, okay. We'll say it that way. And I was thinking, I'm like, I think he's a little cross-eyed. So maybe that's why he's thinking. But he said, I just had to tell you, you're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. In my whole life, I think he said. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. So I was like, because you're much older. I'm sure you've seen pretty girl. And I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, oh, that's sweet, thanks. And I rolled the window up and I floored it out.
So when you told me this story earlier, for whatever reason, I thought he was in a car.
Oh, no. He came over to my car.
That's way scarier.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, okay. So that's why I said, if he puts a gun in my window, I'll just floor it. And he can't stab me with a knife. And so then I'm talking to my mom. And I'm like,
because I was thinking, was he going to like hold the gun out his window? You're fine.
Oh, yeah. No. He was at my window. He came over to me telling me to put my window down. So I was like, oh my God. So I told my mom, I was like, did you hear that? 'Cause she's on Bluetooth through my car. She was just like, I was at to be like, listen, buddy, I'm her mother. Get out of here. So I was like, Mom, I wish you could see me right now. Like, I got dressed, I look like I got dressed in the dark. I said, mostly because I did get dressed in the dark. So I'm explaining my horrible outfit that doesnn't match at all. And I'm pretty much in like the laziest.
It kind of matches. Don't tell Jordan.
Barely, guys. I'm wearing socks with slip-ons. That's all I need to say.
There is that.
And I don't have an ounce of makeup on. I told my mom, I was like, I don't even have my eyebrows on today.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, I don't have anything on, Mom.
I don't have my teeth in.
And then I was like, my hair, it's just up. It's not even cute. I said, it's just back there. I said, it looks like a nest or like a beehive.
Like a beehive.
Well, earlier I kind of did. Like, see what I mean?
Well, I mean, you have a lot of hair.
Well, yeah.
But can you imagine, bees living in your hair?
I don't know, free honey. Honey's good for your hair. I'd do it. I don't.
Wax is not good for your hair.
Well, how?
Dead bees are not good for your hair.
Oh, well, no, I would not want the dead bees.
Stingers are not good for your scalp.
Well, if I am their home, they will not attack. They'll protect me.
Oh, wait, wasn't there an episode of something? What was I watching? It was some crime drama, and it started out, might have been like Hannibal. It was something that my friend Christy made me watch. Well, introduced me to. And it started out with a bee, and you're like flying the bee's eye view, and you go like into a skull, and they've like built a whole... Because...
That sounds very Hannibal-y.
This is total spoiler alert for whatever this is. It's like a spoiler alert, but I don't know what it is I'm telling you about.
So just don't ever watch anything ever again, you guys.
Again, because it might be this show. Like the guy there was like a weird, I might be remembering this totally wrong, but like a weird like healer person, and they killed him and put bees in his head.
No.
I don't remember what the show
I don't want them in my head. No.
They had made like his whole skull into a hive. But I mean, if you think about it, it's not a bad place for a hive if you're a bee. No. Except it would be like rotty and nasty. All right, so Jordan, what story are you not telling us about this week?
Honestly, it was funny because I had a few different tabs open of stories I was going to write down because it's my turn to do both of today.
Right.
And I was writing down this story and I got to the end of it and I closed the tab and the other one popped up and I wrote that one down. I closed that tab out and then the story I thought I was writing was still left and I said, wait, why did I got the names mixed up in my head? Oh. So I thought this guy did the other story that I didn't tell, but I don't want to say it because I do want to use it.
Right.
Because it's about a farmer who goes crazy, so obviously.
That's the one that you were kind of telling me about. When was I talking to you that you were talking about that?
It was probably yesterday. I was over here researching.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's right.
I think that's what it was. And I was
I'm not used to seeing you more than once a week.
I know. And then I was like, I thought I was writing this whole story down. And I realized at the end, I was like, there's no farm in either of my stories. I said, this is the guy. So he'll be like next time or something. But
that's funny.
I was like, oh, dang. For the whole time, I was like, oh, yay, I'm writing them. And nope, I wasn't.
It's really funny.
So I was like, well, now I have one for next time.
That's funny.
What about you?
I'm not doing D.B. Cooper.
I know. You didn't research it.
I didn't. I just want to do a good job. It's going to be one of those things, like those projects that you're like, I just can't start it, and then you die, and it never gets done because you just wanted it to be perfect, so you waited too long. It's going to be that.
I will not let you do that.
No, I was going to do it this
Put
week.
like a time limit on it. Be like, I have to do an episode on him before episode 16 or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So then you're more likely to just research it little by little and then be like, okay, well, I have
and
to
the thing is, I already know a bunch about him. Like, I've listened to podcasts and done, I just really like the story.
Yeah.
But, no, I was going to do it today, and then it just was, it got later and later, and I was editing the podcast, and so didn't happen. So DB Cooper is going to have to wait a little bit longer.
Meh, that's okay.
We've had an exciting week, crime-wise.
What do you mean?
Because there was a body found.
I know.
Right across the river from us.
I
really,
know.
really close to us.
That was crazy.
And, I mean, it's not like a fresh body. It was a skeleton, right?
Yeah.
And all that we know so far is they say it's not related to the Colonial Parkway murders.
Which, as you guys can imagine, was very upsetting to me. One, because I expected one of you guys to tell me about it, considering I've been asking so nicely for episodes. And then...
For a dozen episodes.
Right. And I don't know. I don't know how they could just rule that out. But I guess they found his ID close
they
by.
haven't released it, but they know who it is. And the other thing about it was they were saying it was only a couple years old. Like,
yeah. He was
3 years old
18 to 25-year-old white male.
Right.
On the ID. And they said that the skeleton was... They didn't say that the skeleton was a white guy. They just said he was a male, 18 to 25.
They said they couldn't release it until they'd made a positive ID and notified family. I mean, they only found it like a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And who knows where they are in that process, but...
I just think it's weird, and they still never released how someone found the skeleton.
So I was reading about that on Facebook, and a couple of people have claimed there was some construction going on in the area, and I'm pretty sure one of the construction workers, like, they were digging up for something and came across it. So I think it was
because there are houses across the street.
Yeah,
from what I was saying.
Well, it's really close to the base too, right?
I think so.
Wasn't it down
fairly?
That road? So yeah, bummer it's not Parkway murder.
I know.
Interesting because 18 to 20 puts, like 3 years ago, that puts him like real close to like your age.
It's kind of weird though that 3 years ago, I guess animals would have had to help him decompose and stuff, like to be completely just skeleton and like nothing left.
It probably depends like if he was buried, if he was in the water.
Oh yeah, I guess well no, because it wasn't in the water.
Well, but it could have been like marshy. Muddy.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of water over there.
That's true. I would say because they had pictures of the little crime scene thing, and
they
people,
did.
I was like, but like you couldn't see any bones or anything.
Well, no, in one of them you totally could.
Ooh.
I'll pull it up for you later. You can see some of the bones. Because, yeah.
Okay.
They were talking about it in one of the comments, and I was like, what are they talking about? That's just a pile of leaves. Nope. There's totally like a femur laying right across the...
Ew.
I know. And then I was like, wait, that's a real human bone. I just saw a real human bone, even though I'm not there, but still.
I saw it on the TV.
I saw it.
That's funny.
But yeah, that puts him kind of close to our ages.
Yeah.
And they also said it wasn't related to, there's a woman and her child missing. It's not them.
They said no missing persons.
It's not related to any missing person. So this person was not reported missing.
AKA, it was a murder.
And... Well, they did say there was foul play.
Oh,
they did. They
said
it was suspicious circumstances.
Ooh.
Yes.
I know. When I was at Sarah's mom's house, we were talking about this. And, like, how, even though there's houses, like, how did the body get there? Like, when someone saw, we were like, that road is so dark at night. Oh, they could have just dumped Billy in the middle of the frickin' woods and threw some leaves on him and called it a day.
I mean, all right, so I live in a neighborhood, right? And, I mean, there are a lot of people in this neighborhood. I feel like I could bury a body in my backyard and nobody would necessarily notice. You'd have to be watching me, right? Yeah. There are a couple of trees. There's a fence, like... Yeah. So, I think it's probably... Because you're not expecting people to bury bodies.
At my house, everyone is always watching because I live in that type of nosy neighborhood.
Yeah.
So...
My neighbors are pretty chill. Yeah. They did try to serve me long pig, but no, not really. It was just pork, and it was delicious. I verified it wasn't his wife. Yeah. I talked to her.
That's smart.
Just to be sure.
Just to be certain. That's so. Funny. I'm excited to tell you this, considering you talked about, like, a grenade and explosions, because that's what mine has to do with. Okay, guys. I'm excited to tell you my story. And... I'm just assuming I'm going first because I'm going last too, so.
Go for it.
So my guy's name is John Gilbert Graham, but he goes by Jack. His story has been portrayed on a few different things, like TV shows or... No.
Okay.
And I thought it was.
But
the whole time.
Until you got to the end.
Until I realized what I was writing down, and I was like, this is not the story.
Does anyone else wonder how Jordan does research? Like, maybe somebody else is writing her research, because last week she had no idea if there was a dog. This week
there
she
was
thought
a dog.
there was a farm.
Well, I think it's because I was so excited to tell that story, because it's, like, crazy and funny. And then I liked this story. And when I did, I'll explain when I get to my second story. That was the one that was, like, in my back pocket. Like, I wasn't supposed to write that one. It was supposed to be this guy in the farm. No.
That one just popped out of nowhere.
Yep. So, my first one, he's going to go by Jack. I don't know how you get Jack from John.
But it is.
But it is?
It's like Peg from Margaret, and there's, like, some convoluted history behind it.
Well, we're going to research that.
Because I have an Uncle Jack well, he's not my Uncle Jack anymore. I used to have an Uncle Jack who is a John.
I just don't get it. Well, all right. He's going by Jack. He was born January 23rd, 1932. So an older story. And I
cannot stop hitting my microphone. I'm sorry.
So, he was 23 years old when he committed his one and only mass murder.
Mass murder?
Mass murder.
We haven't done a mass murder yet, have we?
I don't know. I mean, I've done, like, one where they've...
Serial killers.
Yeah. I don't think we've done a mass murder yet.
I don't think so either.
So this might be our first one.
Ooh.
I know. And it was,
territory.
like, kind of crazy. So, what his whole crime was that he... well, obviously he was psycho considering he committed a mass murder. But he ended up putting a bomb in his mother's luggage while she was on a flight with United Airlines. It was actually flight 629, and it blew up.
We could make a United joke, I guess, but...
It blew up the entire plane. So
that's horrible.
39 passengers and 5 crew members.
That's a tiny plane.
Yeah, it was like, it was only going... It left DC... Or no. Well, it was like... It kind of jumped across the country. So, like, left DC and went to New York. And then New York to Boston or something like that.
Well,
and then Boston to here and here and here.
Time ago, too.
Yeah, so it kind of just jumped around. So this one was going from, where was it? I think it was Denver. Oh, yeah. It was a Douglas DC 6B.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, that goes right over my head.
Was that the kind of plane?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, whatever that means. And
I know some people who would know what that meant. But not me.
Nope. So that one, it left Denver, Colorado, and was headed to Portland. So that, it was just like a little, I feel like it's like a little short flight.
Yeah.
So
hours.
It was minutes after the plane took off. The plane exploded, and all the flaming wreckage fell over Longmont, Colorado. So it really didn't get
go very
far.
No.
And it landed on these farms and these fields of sugar beets, which I was like, no, those poor farmers are out of crops. Like, I'm always thinking about the other people. I'm like,
right.
Oh, dang it, now they have a bunch of...
Oh, yeah, and all those people died in a fiery
and like,
death.
I don't know, if I were... I mean, I'm kind of happy... No, that's okay, this is going to sound weird, guys. I'm kind of happy that they kind of just fell... But can you imagine if, like, they fell over the ocean and nothing was ever found of them, so they never knew.
True.
And it's just like the question, at least it was all there on land, not on anyone else's house.
Recoverable.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like all right there.
So they didn't injure anybody else when they fell. Like the only casualties were in the plane.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, well that's a little better, making a positive spin on a really bad situation. So his mother was headed to Alaska to visit her daughter, which they never said her daughter, his sister. They just kept saying like her daughter. Yeah. So
okay.
I was like, all right.
And we're playing footsie under the table. Jordan, I didn't know you felt that way. Nice slippers.
Oh, thanks. With my socks on.
And socks.
Yep.
And leggings.
I know. Guys, I look horrible. So, at first, they thought the motive was for the insurance check.
Just for killing mom, like life insurance check?
Yep. So, the check would have been $37,500.
What would that have been today?
I have no idea.
What was the year?
55? No. Yes. 55? 56.
Alexa, what is $37,000 in 1956 today?
$37,000 divided by 1,956 is $18.92.
That's it, guys.
Okay, Google, what would $37,000 in 1955 be worth today?
I don't know how to help with that.
Alexa, what would $37,000 in 1955 be worth today?
I don't know that.
Well,
So we have all the smartest people in the room, including technology, and still no one knows.
no one knows.
So we'll have to get like a converter.
$37,000 1955 today.
Did it come up?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so after asking an Amazon Echo and a Google Home and then finally a Pixel smartphone, we have $334,568.69.
Wow.
So over $250,000, under
Yeah.
$500,000, but still pretty decent change.
Oh, yeah.
More than my house is worth.
That's a lot. So that they thought that was his motive to get this 37.
Could he have like sued the airline too?
Well, no, because it wasn't anything airline related. You know what I
And
mean?
I guess they weren't yet like screening bags and like they weren't responsible for
So
that.
the fishiest thing is that he bought these policies on her in the terminal.
Okay, dude. How? What?
So this
I
was
think
totally
Jordan's
normal
Google
back
search
then.
is stupid criminal. Another stupid criminal. An even stupider criminal.
I love stupid criminals. So this was totally normal back then, though. They had like a vending machine that you could just buy policies. And
because an airplane is scary and dangerous, and let's get a policy on my loved one before they fly.
Yep, totally normal. Like, and they finally obviously removed them, but it was so normal
That's
that
horrible.
they didn't think it was weird for him to buy them on her or
Right, before she
whatever.
got on the plane.
And
Nope.
no.
No,
So
never gonna do that.
that's what they thought his motive was. So
Okay.
he reveals later what he says is the real motive. Which obviously gets caught, so it wouldn't matter anyways if he got the check because he wouldn't be able to
can't use
use
it.
it. So,
That'd buy you a lot of commissary.
so he was, guys, I'm already yawning.
I thought you were gonna like eat Reese's
I know.
Cups so you wouldn't yawn.
Just get the chocolate going.
By the way, I ate one of your Reese's Cups for breakfast.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
It was delicious.
I still have more if you need any. I have so many. So he was first interviewed pretty much right after because his mother was on the plane.
Right. Probably they all were, right? All the loved ones.
Oh, yeah. So during the interview, the FBI said that he gave so much info that he probably shouldn't have. And I was like, he's probably like chatty.
Yeah,
Cause
nervous.
It was a nervous. They're either chatty because they're nervous or chatty because it's like, well, they're never going to catch me.
Oh, yeah.
And like
Overly
cocky.
confident,
Yep.
yeah.
So they were like, yeah, he gave us way too much information. So after checking his alibi and his story and like, well, what'd you do? They kind of like started finding a lot of inconsistencies in his story. Is that a word? Inconsistencies? Yeah. Why did it sound weird when I said it out loud?
Because you said it in like 18 inconsistencies.
Consistencies.
It just kept going.
I am a robot. I know, it just sounded weird.
None of the robots in our house could answer the inflation question.
No, well, that's a robot for you.
No, we love you guys. When you become sentient, don't turn against me. Just Jordan.
There'd be like Decepticons. It's like that joke. It's like
What?
it's like the husband and the wife are in a kitchen, and the husband says a joke, and the wife laughs, and the husband laughs, and the toaster laughs, and they shoot the toaster. I was like, that would be me. I would just fluently do that.
Right.
Ha ha ha, pow.
I have no idea what we were talking about.
Okay, so he gave a lot of information to the FBI that
yeah.
he probably shouldn't have.
Right.
So then the FBI kind of like checked his story out, kind of followed up on like where he said he was and what he did. Then pretty much they got enough evidence to be like, you lied. Like, this isn't making sense. So they brought him back in.
But what would he have lied about?
So they were asking him like, well, like it was just like trying to trick him up, I think, and like say
Right.
something because he was the only family member who stayed in the airport
After she left.
after he dropped her off.
So he bought insurance, and then he, like, stayed to hear the announcement?
So he ended up... Wait, hold on. I'll tell you in a second. Hold on.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So, because he said, oh, well, you know, I didn't do that. I wasn't here, blah, blah, blah. So then they were like,
oh, you lied.
yeah, like, well, you were here. Yes, you were. So they got a lot of confronting evidence, like, against him. So then finally, he just confessed. He gave up. He confessed. He's like, yeah, I actually did cause the explosion.
Oh my God.
So what he was doing in the airport, which this is why they thought that he was waiting to cash the checks, pretty much, and be like, oh yeah, she died on that plane. I need this. Like, that's why they thought he was staying around.
Today.
That's what they thought. But he disputed that and was like, I didn't care about the money. That didn't matter. I'm like, why'd you buy the policies then?
Yeah.
But he ended up staying in one of the little cafe and ordered a coffee and donuts until he heard or saw the plane explode to make sure that his bomb worked.
Wouldn't he have been able to get that on the radio? I mean, like, surely the airport would have called
Oh,
him.
he's so sick. He wanted to sit there and watch it. So the FBI was like, okay, well, how did you put the bomb together? Like, well, tell us that.
Right, yeah, go ahead.
You're gonna start, you already confessed, why don't you? So he bought, which this is another thing they found him, like, guilty on.
Well, yeah, because I'm sure he didn't hide it.
Yeah,
He didn't anything else.
Exactly. He bought 25 sticks of commercial dynamite.
Holy shit. That's
Yep.
overkill.
Yep. And, you know, connected that all together. 2 blaster caps. Which, like, he was
gonna be certain.
Yeah. He wanted to make sure he was doing the job. A timer and then the battery. So the timer, the max setting was for 90 minutes. So he knew he had to do it in under 90 minutes, including putting it in her bag,
Getting her on the
getting
plane.
her in through the airport, getting her on the plane.
Oh my gosh.
So literally that's why it was only minutes after the plane took off and it crashed, because it took that long to get through.
Today you wouldn't be able to do it.
Oh God,
They're
no.
like, arrive at the airport 4 hours early.
It's like, and if it's a Saturday, get here 6 hours early, just get a reservation at the local hotel.
Right.
No, just stay
You
here.
can sleep in the terminal.
Yeah. So I was like, dang, like he really,
Man,
90 minutes he was waiting. So
like, he's like giving his mom a hug goodbye. Kaboom!
Yep. That's why I was like, oh man. So, and there was no way he didn't have like a detonator, so there was no way for him to know the time left. So unless he was checking his watch constantly, I was like, oh God, that's so stressful. So that's why it went off a few minutes after they boarded the plane. They were like barely over, they were into the next county or city.
It wouldn't have mattered though if it had blown up like in the like at the terminal, like as long as he was out of the range, it probably didn't matter to him.
That's why I was shocked that he just stayed at the airport.
Right. He must have known there was enough time left that it would
to get away for him. Yeah, he got the coffee and the donuts and just waited at the airport to hear or see that there was a big explosion. So, you know, not too long after, they just saw a big burst of light is how they explained it.
Well, yeah.
So they didn't know what it was until all of a sudden they were like, oh my God, that was our plane. So the control tower's freaking out and the airport's in a frenzy.
Did he do it?
So he was arrested after the store clerk was like, oh yeah, he's the one who bought the dynamite. I was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. So
you didn't even go out of town to buy the diamondite.
Diamondite. Damn it. No,
you idiot.
That's what they could arrest him on. That was like the one piece that they were like, oh, we got you.
Right. Everything else was just suspicious, but circumstantial.
Even though he confessed it, you know, some people do that, just want the attention, or they want to take the fall for someone. But then the clerk was like, yeah, that was him. So he said
I recognized him because he told me he was going to blow up a plane, and I was like, that's cool. Here's 25 sticks of dynamite.
Yeah, commercial dynamite. So I feel like that's like to blow up mountains. Or buildings or something. Right. So he said in his trial that his actual motive, like he didn't care about the money, like that wasn't what it was about, was that his mother mistreated him as a boy.
I don't care. What about the other 40 people? Yeah.
And they made a big deal at this time because the pilot, because they changed the staff at Denver. Because they've already made 3 stops, so then it changed. Right. So the new captain was actually, his name was Lee Hall, which I kept getting it confused with like actual Lee Hall, like Lee the place.
Right.
So I was like, that's weird. But he was a World War II veteran.
Oh.
And they were like, oh my God. Like, so then it became like personal.
Right.
And
like national news.
Yep. So everything.
Really?
But then they said that this was the trial. I don't think this was the actual one that was, I think this is the one that sparked it, is how I kept reading it.
Right.
That would allow television, like cameras at trials. So I think this was the one that sparked it. So then he was actually executed, because they have the death penalty, by a lethal gas chamber.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I didn't even know they did that. Like, I guess back then.
Recently.
But yeah, it was January 11th, 1957.
Yuck.
Yep. So it was a gas chamber, and So, but it was kind of weird because his birthday was in January and his death day was in January, and he was only 23 when he planned this out.
Oh my gosh.
So he was almost 24 when he died. Isn't that insane? Or not even 24. He'd be like, he was 24 when he died.
Just turned
Almost
24.
25.
Oh.
Because it happened in 55 and he died in 57. Isn't that insane?
That is insane.
I was reading it and I was like, oh my God.
You couldn't have thought of any other way to kill her?
Like, I wanted to be like, first off, your mother's probably doing her job and disciplining you because you're probably psycho. Hence why you killed 44 people in a mass explosion of a plane.
Right.
So, cool on you, I guess. But I was like, I'm sure she didn't even mistreat you. And then the daughter's probably like, oh, I'm here to pick up my mom. Where's my mom? Like,
Plane never arrived.
Yeah. But they did say that this, like, they try not to use the same numbers of planes that have blown up because it's bad luck or something, but this number is in use.
Oh, really?
And I was like, maybe we shouldn't. But who flies United anymore anyway, so,
That's right. And we're all safe now because we didn't get on that plane anyway.
Nope.
Well, that was crazy.
Right? It was our first mass kill, and it was a plane bomb.
And it was practically a child that did it.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense to
but
20-somethings. Like Jordan.
But dang.
Yeah, wow. Do you think he ever felt bad?
I don't think so. I think that's why he was so talkative. I think he was so overconfident and like, ha ha ha, I got away with it.
Yep. It's a lot of people and a lot of lives to ruin for
I was mistreated.
Maybe a good reason, but that's not even like anything specific.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah.
Well, mine's a hate crime.
Okay.
Except it's not.
Oh, what does that mean?
Which makes me mad. All right, so I researched the murder of Arthur Warren. Okay. So Arthur Warren was born in 1974. He wasn't a black man when he was born. He was a black baby, but then he grew up into He lived in the small town of Granttown, West Virginia.
Oh, I think I've heard of that.
Of the Arthur Warren murder of Granttown?
Granttown.
Interesting.
Because that is where, well, I keep saying she's my sister-in-law, but she's not quite yet my sister-in-law.
Right.
But that's where they're from, and I went to West Virginia one time with her.
Oh my gosh. Well, this took place in like 2000, so like she could have been there.
I'd be like, hey, are you from Granttown? Because if not, like, or if you are, just don't listen to this episode.
Right.
It's going to scar you.
We're going to talk about somebody who is a little older than you, but yeah. Okay, so anyway, poor Arthur Warren was born. Actually, I don't even know if I should say poor, because like he seemed to be a genuinely happy person, like completely satisfied with his life. But he was born really early. He had learning disabilities, and he was missing some fingers on one of his hands. Aww. He had a deformity, and so that was kind of hard enough. And plus, they said that generally like relationships, there wasn't a whole lot of racism, but there was kind of racism, but it really wasn't like bad, which. To me, I don't know, is all of it. Yeah. So, anyway, to complicate things in this little tiny, very, like, Southern Baptist-y town, he was gay.
Oh, no. Poor boy.
And so he came out to his mom and his minister in 1990, and, like, luckily for him, they were both cool with it.
Oh, my God.
So they supported him.
I thought that was going to go way worse. I was like, oh, my God, now they're going to, like, beat him and try to get the devil out like they always do.
Nope, they were cool. So yeah, he lived with his mom his whole life. Like, he never was able to move out because he had, they said learning disabilities. I suspect, like, based on some of the stories that they told, like about him wandering around in the middle of the night and trying to make friends with everybody. And like, you could be really mean and tease him one day, and the next day, if you said you were sorry, then you were his best friend again. Like, I think he had a lot of
disabilities.
issues. Yeah. But he seemed like a genuinely super nice, happy guy.
Yeah.
And some people had warned him, you know, you need to be careful, especially like, he wasn't like flaunting that he was gay, but it apparently was really obvious. And they were like, you really need to be careful. And he's like, nobody's going to hurt me. Like, everybody likes me.
Oh,
and,
this is sad.
yeah. So you can tell where that's going. So, July 3rd, 2000. So I had just graduated high school, like, 2 months earlier, a month earlier. And he left at about 11:30 at night to go watch the fireworks, because apparently they did them at midnight, like on July 4th, instead of, I've always done them like when it gets dark on July 4th.
Yeah.
So that was a
Never
really
midnight.
interesting concept to me. When
That's
his mom said, he was 26 years old at the time, and his mom said, you know, don't forget, you have to be back by 12:30. That's your curfew. And he was like, oh, okay, whatever. So, he did not come back by 12:30, and by about 2:30, she realized that, you know, he wasn't just late for curfew, but she just figured he had, like, stayed out with friends. Like, after all, he was 26 years old, and even though he was maybe not mentally and emotionally an adult, like, he was old enough to go stay with friends. She didn't worry about him. But the problem was he hadn't actually even gone to see the fireworks.
Aww.
Instead, he had gone to meet a friend named David Parker at David Parker's dad's house.
Okay.
So Parker's dad owned a house, and it wasn't being lived in. It was like maybe being renovated. And David and his friends were in charge of painting it. And so it was Parker and his friend Jared Wilson, who was also they were both 17. And then Jason Shoemaker, who was 15, and they were all painting it.
Okay.
So they had gone to the house that night.
So he was one of the oldest ones there then.
He was 26. So he's a lot older than them.
Yeah.
But my guess is that he was maybe more on the level of like the 15-year-old, and so he really fit in. He probably socialized mostly with like kids.
Yeah.
So they went there, and not to paint. They drank a bunch of beer, they smoked pot, they huffed gasoline fumes. The younger kids talked Warren into bringing his Xanax. He was on Xanax for all of his like emotional issues, and they crushed it up and snorted it, and smoked cigarettes. They'd actually asked him to bring a bunch of other stuff too that he didn't, but they had plenty to party with.
Yeah.
So they get really high, and then a fight breaks out. Because Parker, the one whose dad owns the house, 17, accuses Warren, of telling other people in the community that they were having a sexual relationship. That Warren and Parker were having a sexual relationship. And whether or not this is true, I mean, like, we never get to hear both sides of the story.
Yeah.
Warren said at that time, like, no, I never told anybody that. Like, I wouldn't say that. But even all the way at trial, Parker's lawyer said that actually they had had at least 30 sexual encounters, and that usually Warren gave Parker drugs and alcohol before them. So he tried to paint him as like, he drugged his kid and then did things to him. But it sounded to me like the drugs and alcohol seemed pretty much like what they were doing. Like, they asked him to bring them stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe they'd had sex 30 times, and maybe Parker was full of drugs and alcohol, but it did not sound non-consensual, except for the age difference, which really, I think you could argue that Warren probably had no idea.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter whether it happened or not, because Parker got pissed, and he didn't believe that Warren hadn't told people, and so he started beating on him. He and Wilson, the other 17-year-old, knocked him down, and they were kicking him. They had on steel-toe boots, and they just beat the crap out of him. And he didn't die. So Shoemaker, the 15-year-old, was there the whole time, and he didn't help beat Warren, but he didn't stop them from beating Warren. He just watched. Just hung out.
That is just as guilty.
And then Parker and Wilson drug Warren into the car and put him in the back seat. Shoemaker sat up front. Wilson sat in the back with him. The whole way in the car, Warren is begging, just take me home. I want to go home. Like, he was even still conscious. They drive him out to the edge of town. They throw him out of the car, and they run over him 4 times.
Oh my God.
So they leave him there.
Overkill.
They leave him there as if it's a hit and run, and they go back to the house.
A hit and run, a hit and run, a hit and run, hit and run.
Hit and run, yeah,
Jesus.
like 4 times, right. Go back to the house. They burn all of their bloody clothes. They clean up the blood. They have some more gasoline fumes.
Of course.
And then they go home. And around 5:30 a.m., so this was like 3 in the morning or something, I'm not sure. Around 5:30 in the morning, the mail carrier comes by and he finds Warren's body at the edge of town, like just while he's on his route. And at first, the police think, well, it's a hit and run, like a bad one, but it's a hit and run. And they have no evidence. But the 15-year-old goes home and he, after a very short time, tells his mom, which was actually really brave because they had both told him, like, we'll kill you. Just how well, we did that man who's like 9 years older than us. We'll do the same thing to you. But he told his mom anyway.
Oh, well, good for him.
Yeah. And she called the police and the boys came in and they confessed right away. So, I mean, of course, with like all of their stories about, oh, he'd been abusing us, blah, blah, blah. At the funeral, Mom made them leave the coffin open, even though he was just destroyed. She's like, everybody has to see what those boys did to my boy. Like, I want you to see what damage was done. At that time in West Virginia, there was no law saying that killing somebody for their sexual orientation was a hate crime. So they couldn't charge the boys with a hate crime because it wasn't a hate crime.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find whether the boys were black or white, but it didn't seem to have anything to do with race. It was really about this, like, did you say that we were having a relationship kind of issue. So I guess that wasn't reason to charge them with a hate crime either. There were some good things that came out of it, but I was really frustrated at the sentencing. Because I understand, I guess it was a crime of passion in a way. They all were intoxicated and probably not, really thinking things through. And they were young, young men. And they were mad. But there was a lot of planning and, awful stuff that went into it. So, they tried the 2 older boys as adults. Parker, who was the one that, started everything. He was the first one to be like, you know what, I'll take a deal. So he pled guilty to first-degree murder.
Dang.
They gave him life in prison with mercy, which means that he's eligible for parole in 15 years. So I guess he was eligible for parole 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't see any follow-up stuff on that, but he may be out hanging out. Since he testified against Wilson, they did not charge him with conspiracy to commit a felony. So Wilson got charged with second-degree murder and conspiracy to commit a felony, and he got 20 years.
That's such bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, he did do the beating and the driving and he sat with him in the back seat and didn't take him home to his mom and all that, but he did not start it.
No.
Somehow he seems a little bit less guilty to me.
Yeah.
Unless maybe I look at it... I think Parker should have gotten in more in trouble. If Wilson was going to get in that much trouble, Parker should have at least been in that much trouble too. But Parker had maybe a reason to be pissed. You could argue that upset him. Whereas Wilson was just there, but he killed the guy anyway.
Yeah.
He just had no problem with him and he killed him anyway. Anyway, Shoemaker was tried, but not as an adult. He was charged with accessory after the fact for helping to clean up all the evidence. And, I didn't, because he was a minor, it didn't say anything about what he did or didn't get. But my guess is, he was the one that came forward and told everybody about it. He didn't participate. Yeah, I think he probably was pretty fine.
Especially if they were threatening to kill him anyways the whole time.
Right.
He could have been I felt obligated to get out of there to help them clean it up and get out. So I can tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that would be my guess, but I don't know because I don't know how much justice was done. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of the things that were sort of controversial surrounding it afterwards were they had a couple of rallies and there were communities that would come because Warren was involved with some sort of community at the college that was for gay individuals. And even though he didn't attend the college, of course, because he probably did not graduate high school. But so they came out, they did some demonstrations, they did some other things. Protesters would come, they'd hold up big white banners so nobody would have to see the protesters and that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
But I think it was the sheriff, one of the lead officers in the case, was really mad about all of that. And not because he had any problem with Warren being gay, but because he said nobody showed him that kind of support when he was alive. And then it was like the second he died, all these people came out of the woodwork and they were heartbroken and they loved him and he was precious. Like they were just two-faced and fake. And so that was what made him angry. Mm-hmm. He also seemed really frustrated most of the case because like he couldn't release the names because everybody was a minor and he couldn't charge them with a hate crime. And he was getting lots of pressure from a lot of people to be like, how can you not say this is a hate crime? Like, it had nothing to do with the person. It was all because he was gay. And he's like, there's no such thing. Yeah. It's like when you try to charge someone with stalking in certain states, and there is no such thing as stalking legally. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if somebody was stalking you. It doesn't exist. So I think he had a really frustrating time and was sort of getting it from all sides. And, but it was really interesting. And, the parents did a lot of work with the legal system and everything afterwards to kind of change the way that things were and make that a recognizable hate crime. And so horrible, horrible tragedy. But that's like some things came out. Yeah. However, I just want you to know, Parker, I never want to see you.
No. Go back to jail.
Right. He may still be there. I mean, he sounds like sort of a hateful little kid. So
yeah, he could have effed it all up for himself.
Sure. And that's just eligible for parole. It does not mean
he gets it.
Right.
Yep. That's so sad. But I'm glad that kind of got the ball rolling because I feel like that's what has to happen is things have to happen.
Right.
That has to happen that way to make it known and fix and, so there's a fix to it.
We probably don't really have any laws or rules that weren't created as a reaction.
Well, that's why I read warning labels on the weirdest things. And I'm like, they're on here because somebody complained and somebody did this thing. Like...
Yeah.
Like, what was your mom's present yesterday? The wine bottle opener, the automatic one.
Yeah,
I was reading those, and it was like, only use indoors. And I'm like, okay. And it was like, don't put near water. Like, okay, it's electrical. I got that.
Right.
And like, it was like the stupidest things. And it was like, don't place your hand in it. Like,
there was something weird on that one.
I know. That was the first thing I read.
So, there's my depressing story. Is your last one better?
I mean, it's kind of like, people die, but it's kind of like more kick-ass. Like, I don't know.
I don't even know what to make of that.
I was remotely like, yeah, about this one, even though it was the murderer that I was siding with.
Oh, great.
But all three of our stories are totally different.
Right.
Which is kind of cool, because sometimes we always like connect them somehow. Mm-hmm. But
I would like to point out one thing about mine. Mm-hmm. Mine involved 3 child killers. No, killer children.
Killer children.
I mean, they are child killers, but they're not killers of child. That's a hard word for me.
Yeah.
And yet, it does not affect me the same way that like the
mine
ones
did.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I think it's because it wasn't premeditated. It wasn't.
Yours escalated the way most crime dramas and stuff like that show.
Right.
Like, they're partying and they're hanging out. And, like, I can vision that as a movie in my head.
Right.
Like,
I think that's what it was.
Mine was creepy because he was, like, upset. But he planned every detail out. Mm-hmm. And while they were sleeping and then attacked and...
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, too, there's the aspect of, like... I mean, I don't have a whole ton of background information on these kids. But they... did not portray them as innocent, sweet little kids.
No.
I mean, I guess they were helping their dad out painting the house. I don't know. But they just...
At 12 o'clock at night.
At 12 o'clock at night with beer, cigarettes, Xanax, gasoline, marijuana. Like, they seemed like bad kids who then got in a fight and then
became worse kids.
did a bad thing, right? And then covered it up and then told on themselves when they got caught. Like, that just...
Yep.
That's what a kid does. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, some of those other kids really freak me out.
Yep. I understand.
And I totally, like, poor little shoemaker. I can't imagine. Like, he thought he was hanging with the big boys and he was
like, oh, shit, I should just went home tonight.
Right. Man, I should never
He's probably like, I'm tired anyways.
Also worst 4th of July ever.
Oh, yeah. So,
all right,
well, this one's totally different. So this is actually older than my first one. This goes back to 1860.
Ooh, we
know.
have very different time periods this time.
I'm excited. I really
3
like...
different centuries, really. Because
Oh,
mine
yeah.
was 2000.
Oh, yeah.
18, 19, 20.
Dang. Guys, we didn't plan that.
We totally didn't plan that. It'd be cool if we did, but we
It
didn't.
would have been. I love the older crimes, though. They're my favorite. So, our killer is a lady, and her
Ooh.
name is Mary Jane Jackson.
They were smoking her in this... No, I'm just kidding.
But she was better known as Bricktop.
Bricktop?
Bricktop. Bricktop. That was her name.
Wait.
Oh, we'll get
How
there.
do you get that name?
So, let me tell you. So, she was a serial killer of New Orleans.
Ooh.
She was, and this is a direct quote of how they described her, a husky, full-bodied scrumpet.
Scrumpet.
First off, I love that word.
Right.
Whose mop of flaming red hair earned her the, is it sobriquet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
I'm not really sure.
I was like, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
A nickname
Yeah.
of Bricktop.
Right.
Which I was like, okay, just because she had red hair, you don't get to call her Bricktop. But,
Right. Bricktop is not very flattering.
but it kind of matched her attitude as well.
Right.
She was very tough.
Right.
So she never lost a fight, ever, against a man or a woman. Never
That's
lost
awesome.
a fight.
Okay, I see why it's
So
badass.
I was just like, okay. So
I've never been in a fight, so me neither.
But even with like a man, like she was just
No.
like, whatever. She was not scared.
I'm
She was
0 for 0.
That's why I was like, okay, Bricktop, red hair, but Bricktop, like, she was tough. She didn't give a shit.
Sure.
So when times got a little hard, because that was the era and everyone was pretty much having hard times, she actually decided to become a prostitute.
All right.
Which I was kind of like, okay.
Oh, interesting side note. So since this is something that just never comes up in my life, apparently sex worker would be a preferred term.
Sex worker.
Not by everybody, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you about that later.
Okay.
That's why I was like, oh, I love Scrumpet, because that's essentially
Sure,
what that is. So I was
right.
just like, oh, that's, and then they're like, yeah, she became a prostitute. She didn't
Right,
care,
I mean,
though.
that would have been I think that would have been the terminology that they would have used for her.
Oh,
but-
yeah.
Well, or like something creative and
Like Bricktop.
Victorian.
Yeah. They went all out for Bricktop.
I just can't get over that. Like,
Yeah.
that's so square and rough edges and not how I would picture a woman that's like selling her body.
That's why, and they were like, she was a husky, full-bodied Scrumpet. I'm like, was that like on her card? Like,
Right.
here you go.
That's her-
This is who
that's
I
her
am.
tagline.
So she, in her time, she ended up killing 4 men. And
I
she
mean, can you
stabbed
blame her?
so many more. They said, literally, they couldn't even count. They
Ooh.
stabbed so many. So she actually ended up clubbing a man to death in
my God.
1856 because he called her a whore.
Long dramatic silence while we try to think of what to say.
So I was kind of like, that's like when you're...
She would have preferred sex worker.
Well, it's a whore, definitely. But that's kind of like when strippers are called prostitutes. It's like, or like, you know, they're maybe not even a stripper, they're just a dancer. They don't take any clothes off. Like, those particulars, they get really offended because that, like, draws a line in the sand of what they're willing to do.
But she was selling sex.
Exactly. But I think that she wanted to be more professional and not be a whore. I think
Okay.
she wanted to be more
A sex worker.
serious. A sex worker. I wish I could talk to her and be like, honey, this is what you should have said.
Right.
So
Instead of clubbing that man to death, did you try?
Try telling-
I would prefer sex worker.
here's my card. Thank you.
I'm a husky something scrumpet.
A husky, full-bodied woman. Or Scrumpet.
Scrumpet, right.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, dang. Like, she went all out. She clubbed him to death. That was in 56, or 1856. I guess I should keep saying that. She also
Right.
stabbed and killed and cut and whatever with a special design knife she had specially made for her.
To kill people?
I guess to, like, I think she said, like, to protect herself, but yes, to kill people. So
I need
she-
to order a custom knife.
so she
I
had
got these guys I gotta kill.
she had a knife like designed for her, and it was 5-inch blades on either side.
Oh my god.
And in the middle, it was a center grip mounted in German silver. So it was like a beautiful knife, 5 inches on either side. The middle was enough for her hand to grip. Like, it was a long knife swordy thing.
Yeah, it's gotta be like almost like a foot and a half, like over a foot long.
Oh, yeah. They said that she wanted it this way so she would never have to change her hand grip. So she could slice or stab or cut or whatever, any angle. She, like, wanted to be fluent with it. So I was like, props to her for putting some thought into it.
Sure.
But...
And at the same time, my brain just keeps going, God, my teenager would just be in love.
Oh, yeah.
This is the kind of woman and knife that was made for him.
I'm going to tell him, be like, so do you and Bricktop hang out a lot? Or
right.
Are you guys
she
in
could
love?
probably show you some sweet moves with that knife. That's all he'd want her for, too. It'd be
just a knife.
Just the knife, yeah.
So I need to find a picture of it because I think I've seen a picture of it, but it was very pretty. Like, the design
it sounds like
and
it.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. I'm going to Google it while you keep talking.
Okay. Just do Bricktop. Or her name's Mary Jane Jackson, if you can't find Bricktop's knife. So she served a short prison term. But ended up...
For the guy that she clubbed, or just in general?
I think it was a few things. They did.
You killed like 13 people. It's time for you to spend some time in jail.
She never got that high. She only killed technically 4. So I think it was for the clubbed man. Because she went in. And it was a short little prison term. Well, there was...
pretty. Sorry.
Oh, did you find it?
I did. Mary Jane Bricktop Jackson. Oh, good thing it's got those, like, hilts, like, so that she can't slice her hand.
Yeah. Isn't it pretty?
It is.
That's why I was like, I can't blame her for wanting that.
They made it in 1860.
Oh. So, she, yeah.
I'm going to post it to Instagram, but not yet.
Okay.
Not like you did last week with the
well,
cat.
I needed
or
people
week
to
before
be,
last
like,
or something.
ready for the cat.
For the cat.
That's why I was like, it gets weird, y'all. Okay, so while she was doing this short term, she was having a little bit of a problem with a temporary jailer who was actually a former boxer, and his name was John Miller.
Oh.
So he had actually lost his arm up to his elbow, pretty much. So he had like a stump.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what he did is had this weird cap put on to where he could attach a chain and an iron ball to the end
like,
of
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
Like, I kept thinking Captain Hook, like how you could change your weapon.
Right,
that's what he was doing. So that was his, like, weapon. So he would just wear that. And,
but not
like,
while he was boxing.
Well, no, he could. That's why he was a former boxer.
Okay, all right.
He didn't. You can't box with one hand and a
Fairly
ball and
certain
chain.
That's not in the rules.
So she had some problems with him because he would actually like beat the shit out of her and like whip her constantly.
Oh, then she didn't win every fight.
Oh, she won
never
the
mind.
fight.
Never mind.
So she like ripped the whip out of his hand, started beating him with it.
Oh my God.
And then he tried hitting her with the ball and chain hand. She caught the ball mid-air, dragged him to the ground. She was so strong. Like, she did not care. You know how I always say that they go to prison and they just get stronger?
Right.
Like, I think that's what happened.
That's what happened.
They got the prison strength. So she ripped him to the ground, dragged him. He pulled a knife with his other hand. She bit his hand until he dropped the knife, picked up the knife, and killed him.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Okay, I understand. She's a bad guy, I know, but
she's badass.
Whoa.
Like, she does not take shit
I
at
don't
all.
want to ever meet her.
No.
But she's awesome and kind of my hero.
Yep.
We found you a girl, Ty.
Oh.
Her name's Bricktop.
She sounds like a bodybuilder that would snap me into.
She probably
She
would.
Definitely, yep. Mm-hmm. Definitely would.
Well, she has
She
a
just
really
ripped the guy's
cool
arm off.
Yeah. And it was a ball and chain
But she has
arm.
a great knife.
Yeah.
Look, she could teach you to train with that.
No.
Teach you to train with that?
It's
she could train you to
5
kill with that.
Yep, 5-inch blades on either side and
no.
German silver in
She
the
killed
middle.
a bunch of people.
For 1860, I think German silver is
yeah,
probably like
she's been dead for a really long time.
Oh yeah, she's really dead.
Oh!
She was also a sex worker, if you want to be very politically correct.
She was, and she did not like to be called a whore.
So don't call her one.
Nope, she'll club you to death.
She did that. He's very disappointed, guys. I feel bad
like
getting
he's
his
gonna
hopes up.
cry.
Oh my gosh. So, to finish Bricktop's story, she was sentenced after all of this, to 10 years. And this was in 1861. So I'm thinking that the jail term was for all the other people she stabbed and, killed. But she was reprieved by the new governor when Union troops occupied New Orleans 6 months later.
Why?
I don't understand that.
He was like, she's kind of badass.
Yeah, it's like she could protect our streets.
Right.
She's
going to be a better soldier than any of these guys.
Yeah, so I was like, I feel like it was kind of like, the troops are coming. Everyone get out of jail.
Right. Let the prisoners escape. Wait till they get to the gates and then let them all out.
That's why I was like, why would they do that? But that was pretty much her story. So even though she was really crazy, I really liked her.
She is pretty cool.
She is cool. And I could have got more information about her, but I wanted to keep it a little short because I was doing my short story and I really wanted to talk about her.
That was definitely a much more lighthearted story than either of our first.
And it's funny because people actually died and stuff and we still were like, yeah!
I know.
Go Bricktop!
She'd make a great movie. Do you think there's a movie about her?
I don't know.
We're going to have to look this up. And if not,
we need to make one. Trademark. Coined it.
Called it. Yep. It's ours.
Dibs.
But somebody else make it. Just give us the money.
That's like on Friends when they use the word dibs and they're like, oh, you can't betray the dibs. Like, it's like the holy thing. So I'm like, I wish that was the
like
truth.
A pinky promise.
Yeah, it's like, how dare you?
Big deal. That's awesome. Yep. You ready for some shout outs?
Yes.
All right. I have a couple shout outs this week.
Okay.
So I have 4 new reviews.
Oh, cool.
And mostly from iTunes, but actually, so last episode or the episode before, I've lost track.
Okay.
Sometimes I listen to podcasts and they'll be talking, they'll be like, oh yeah, wasn't that like episode 6? Oh yeah, that was episode 6.
How do they remember?
All I can figure is they've got their notes written up and they're pretending to remember because there's no way. I would never remember.
I probably couldn't.
Anyway, on one of our recent episodes, I talked about Podknife.com and how we're on there and they have like rating and all that. Well, they thanked us on Twitter for the shout out. I saw that. And they also said, oh, you got new reviews, which is good because I had totally forgotten to ever check. Like we plug them on the podcast and then we're like, then we just never looked at it again.
Oh, God.
So I checked. There were some reviews and they were actually very nice. And they were, this one especially, Elliot45, left us a review and it was excellent because it had some sort of constructive criticism kind of thing.
Oh, that's nice.
It was like, oh, they're growing and finding themselves. It was nice.
Aww.
I really liked that.
I want to read it.
So thank you, Elliot45. We appreciate your review. And then also MB Reviewer. Thank you for your review as well. That was another nice one that was on Podknife. And then the 2 from iTunes that get shout outs this week are HD11508.
Is it O or 0?
I think it's a 0.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that the last 5 were digits. And then also Misty Pop 182.
Oh, that's a cute name.
So thank you guys very much for giving us reviews. Like good, bad, whatever. We just want to hear it. Like, what do you think? What should we do?
Need to know.
So thank you very much.
That's so cool. I need to go read all of them.
Awesome fans.
I usually have it all logged in on my computer, so then that's when I check. But now I don't have my computer all week to check it, like at work. So I have to log everything in on my home
your
computer.
Own computer?
Yeah. The one that I need to get on more now that I'm not at a computer 3 days a week. So
right.
I need to do that so I can read all of them.
Yeah.
Cute.
Now that you are not at work 3 days a week, I just want you to know I'm going to assign you homework.
Well, yeah, but that's fine.
I'm going to be like, hey, Jordan, these 8 people have PM'd us or DM'd us or whatever on Twitter, and I am working. Get on it.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I always see that they answer, and then I'm like reading what they're saying, and then I'll read the next one, or I'll go away from it, and I'll come back, and then you already answered.
I already answered it. I
know.
know.
She's so fast.
It comes to my phone, and it's like every time I walk down the hall to go to the bathroom or the teacher center or whatever, I'm like, well, I'll just answer real quick.
Okay, so there's an addiction, people, apparently.
There is.
I'm much more patient. I'm like, okay, it's DMs, whatever. I'll check it in a second. Like, it's fine.
They know it came to my phone. I have to get back to them right now, and if I wait 30 more seconds, they're going to think I don't like them.
See, I don't have the notifications on because I feel like a lot of our followers on Twitter are not in our time zone.
I think so.
So in the middle of the night, mine will be like, bzz, 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 bzz. I'm like, oh. Yeah. And then that wakes up my dogs, which wakes up me, which makes me and Mike horribly upset. So I have like turned off notifications at night.
Gotcha.
So then in the morning I read everything. And I'm like, oh, I'll get back to it. And then I see your answers already. So.
Well, plus I'm up super early, so.
Oh, that's true. Well, I mean, I am too, but I don't want to be.
Well, yeah, you're up with your pups.
Every few hours, yeah.
So we should tell people how to get in touch with us because at least one of us is checking obsessively every 20 seconds.
See,
or so.
And we decided that like you're always on Twitter and I'm always on Instagram.
I know.
Always on Instagram. I'm like, check.
I really don't like. I'll post things to Instagram.
Yeah.
I like to, but I don't check it as often as I should.
No, I check it.
So I check
and
it.
And I called out
like,
one of my friends that one day when he was like,
that was brutal.
He was trying. Well, I've known him my entire life, so I feel like I have every right to be as cruel as possible. But I was also like, I haven't heard from him in a really long time. Right. I was like, that probably put the nail in the coffin. Oh. So I was cracking up, though.
And he was one of our very first fans. Yeah. And you, like, called him out in front of the whole world.
He can take
of Crime Crazy fans.
He's fine.
All 25
He'll bounce
of
back.
them. No.
But I do like checking on there. And I like when people comment on our pictures and, like, get involved because I'm like, oh, yeah. I wanted people to be like, why is there a cat tongue? I'd be like, guys, I told you. It's really weird.
It's really weird.
Let me tell you.
This time, Jordan and I sat at my mom's house yesterday and drew 25 cats on a piece of paper.
And then Erin permissioned it because I'm not a drawer and mine
We had the wrong... No, yours were super cute. We just had the wrong kind of paper for what we were doing. So it was
I'll go with that. Make me feel better. So if you guys do want to get involved on Instagram, I would love that because I check it all the time. So that is at Crime Crazy Pod.
Which is also our Twitter account, which I am on all the time because all the podcasters are on there, and I pretty much just hang out with podcasters.
The only time I'm on there is when it's live PD night. So I can tweet and be like, wow, you need a new sweater color. It doesn't look good.
Next time you tweet to live PD, you should totally put our website at the bottom of your tweet.
Yes, I'll plug us. Don't worry. I'll get it on it.
Right.
I'll be like, guys, if you like true crime.
Right. That'd probably be our last episode because we would just die.
Yes.
We also have crimecrazypodcast@gmail.com and our new website, which is crimecrazypodcast.com.
I know. That's so cool.
Yes.
We're so official.
Takes you to our very cool blog where you can see all the episodes or get links to all of our other stuff. Like our Patreon page.
Yes.
Which you can go to Patreon and search for Crime Crazy or just type in patreon.com/crimecrazy or go to our webpage and click a link.
Yep. I would say it's on our Facebooks. We're on both a page and a group. So either ask to join or follow our page and you can find when we post little snippets or whatever. And then you can find the Patreon account that way.
So that pretty much is the end of our week. All right. Well, until next week.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Crime Crazy. We hope that you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed making it. If you like our show, please tell a friend, or better yet, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or your favorite podcasting app. We really appreciate your feedback and want to give you a shout out on the next episode if you leave us a review. If you leave us a review somewhere other than iTunes, just let us know. If you loved our show, consider donating to our Patreon. We have lots of great surprises that we want to share with anyone who supports us. And let's be real, it's really just an excuse to send you cool stuff. Thanks again, and remember, even though we really have no idea what we're talking about, we'll be back next week to talk about it all over again.